twin moons of Kael'thar cast their violet glow across the merchant square, where the bastard daughter of a fallen house stood on wooden planks worn smooth by countless transactions. Her skin bore the deep cobalt hue of the Vaeri people, her pointed ears catching every whispered insult from the crowd. The auctioneer's voice droned through the humid air, thick with exotic spices and desperation, but Lyra's amber eyes remained fixed on the distant mountains where her mother's ashes had been scattered without ceremony. When the human widower raised his hand, calloused, weathered, impossibly foreign, no one expected what would unfold in the hours that followed. What happened that first night would not only change 2 lives, but challenge every law written between the stars. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love hearing from you and always read every message. The merchant square of Kael'thar hummed with controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered above crystalline stalls, advertising everything from Orion spices to Centaurian silk. The cobblestones reflected bioluminescent fungi growing between the cracks, casting an emerald shimmer across gathered faces. Lyra stood on the auction platform, her grey dress doing little to hide the features that marked her as Vaeri nobility, or what remained of it. The elegant arch of her cheekbones, the copper hair with hints of iridescence, the proud shoulders despite the iron collar around her neck. "Bastard spawn of a disgraced house," the auctioneer announced, his 3-fingered hand gesturing dismissively. "Half-blood contamination, suitable for domestic labor, basic tasks, perhaps entertainment." Laughter rippled through the crowd. A Vaeri merchant in fine robes spat at the platform's edge. "My father's house fell because of her mother," he called out. "The shame of bearing a hybrid child. Look at her, not pure enough for our world, not human enough for theirs." Lyra's fingers trembled, but her face remained impassive. The collar hummed with low frequency, a reminder that any attempt to flee would result in immediate neural suppression. The human section stood separate. Most were traders or colonial administrators observing with detached curiosity. Except one. He stood at the back, weathered face, blonde hair streaked with grey, scars visible beneath his simple work shirt. His startling blue eyes watched Lyra with uncomfortable intensity. There was something in his gaze that made her breath catch, not pity, not lust, but recognition, as if he saw something in her that no one else bothered to look for. "Starting bid, 200 credits, the auctioneer droned. Silence. 150 credits. 500 credits. Every head turned toward the scarred man with the axe handle over his shoulder. "I heard correctly," the human said, his frontier accent rough. 500 credits, for the woman on the platform. Not the hybrid, not the bastard. The woman. "Human, do you understand what you're bidding on?" The Vaeri merchant pushed forward. "This creature is cursed. I'm bidding on a person being sold against her will," the human interrupted. 500 credits. Going once, going twice, sold. As the collar's control transferred, the human approached. "Can you walk?" he asked simply, offering his hand. But while the crowd dispersed into the violet-lit evening, neither noticed the figure watching from the shadows. Someone whose interest went far deeper than curiosity. The human's transport was a sturdy truck, assembled from parts spanning decades. The bed held farming equipment and hand-carved furniture. "Name's Thomas," he said, opening the passenger door. "Thomas Hendricks. I run a farm 40 kilometers north." Lyra climbed in, the collar still humming. She said nothing. Thomas started the hybrid engine and the truck lurched forward, leaving the merchant square for the darkening road through hills. "I know you can speak," Thomas said finally. "What's your name?" "Lyra." "Lyra. Good. I'm not much for formality anyway." She searched his profile for the lie, the trap. Men didn't spend 500 credits on altruism. My wife died 2 years ago, Thomas said quietly. Farming accident. The harvester malfunctioned. The violet moonlight cast his face in sharp relief, every scar a map of endured pain. I've been managing alone, but the farm is too large. I need genuine help, not an indentured servant or a robot. So you bought a slave, Lyra said flatly. I bought your contract from people who would have sold it to someone far worse. When we reach the farm, I'm deactivating that collar and burning the contract. Her hand flew to the metal band. You're lying. Why would I lie? I've seen those collars on workers in the southern plantations. No one should wear those things. Then why not deactivate it now? Because if you run, you'll die in these hills before morning. The night predators don't distinguish between human and Vaeri, and you're not dressed for the temperature drop. He had a point. Lyra could already feel the chill seeping in. The truck crested a hill, and the landscape opened up. In the valley below lay a farm torn from 2 different worlds. The main house was human frontier style, logs and stone, but surrounded by Vaeri gardens where crystalline flowers grew in geometric patterns. She planted those, Thomas said. My wife, Elena. She was fascinated by your people's agricultural techniques. Thomas guided the truck down. Lyra noticed the hybrid irrigation system, the mixed architecture, the way human and Vaeri design principles had been woven together. But as Lyra stepped out, she failed to notice the small surveillance drone hovering in the tree-lined shadows, recording everything. The farmhouse interior was a monument to blended existence. Human furniture sat alongside Vaeri meditation cushions. The walls displayed photographs and intricate geometric art. The air smelled of wood smoke and something that made her stomach clench. Food. Stew, Thomas explained, ladling steaming portions into bowls. Made it this morning. He retrieved a small device, the collar controller. Lyra's hand went to her neck. This will feel strange, Thomas warned. Sit down first. She lowered herself into a chair, tense. The collar had been part of her for 3 months. Thomas pressed a sequence and the humming stopped. The collar split and clattered to the table. Lyra gasped, her hand flying to her bare neck. The skin felt exposed, vulnerable. The room tilted as her nervous system adjusted. Easy, Thomas said, steadying her shoulder. Breathe through it. After several deep breaths, the disorientation faded, replaced by lightness she had almost forgotten. Thomas picked up the collar, walked to the fireplace and tossed it into the flames. The metal glowed orange, then white. Then he retrieved the contract from his pocket and fed it to the fire. Now eat, he said. You need the strength. The first bite exploded across her tongue with flavor she had almost forgotten. In the labor markets, food had been nutrition, nothing more. This was different. This was care. Elena's recipe, Thomas said. She adjusted it for both human and Vaeri digestive systems. They ate in silence. Why did you really buy me? She asked finally. Thomas set down his spoon. Because I saw something in the way you stood on that platform. You were terrified, humiliated, grieving, but you weren't broken. Your spine was straight. You reminded me of Elena. Everyone told her a human woman had no business learning Vaeri agriculture. She told them to go to hell politely. He smiled at the memory and it transformed his face. I didn't save you, Lyra. I just gave you a different option. What you do with it is up to you. And if I want to leave, then you leave. The road runs both directions. She searched his face for deception, found nothing but sincerity. Your room is upstairs, second door on the left. Elena's room. I haven't changed it, but you're welcome to arrange it however you like. There are clothes in the wardrobe. Lyra rose slowly. Thomas. Sleep, he interrupted gently. Tomorrow we'll talk about work. Tonight, just sleep. She climbed the stairs and found the room decorated with care, books in multiple languages, botanical drawings, photographs of a dark-haired woman with laughing eyes. Elena. Lyra changed into a sleeping gown that smelled of lavender and lay down. The mattress was soft, the blankets warm, the room safe. She should have slept immediately. Instead, she lay awake, listening to Thomas moving downstairs, the fire crackling, the wind through the valley. And then she heard something else, the subtle whir of machinery outside her window. A surveillance drone. Someone was watching. Someone who had followed them from the Merchant Square. Lyra woke to sunlight streaming through windows, one star yellow, one orange, painting the valley in gold and amber. She dressed in clothes from the wardrobe, work pants and a Vaeri-style tunic modified for labor. Downstairs, Thomas was already working in the crystalline garden, checking each plant with understanding. His scarred hands touched leaves with surprising gentleness. "You're up early," Thomas observed. "I thought you might sleep later." "I've been conditioned to wake at dawn. This isn't a labor market. You can sleep when you're tired." "What needs to be done?" He gestured toward the eastern field. "Those are hybrid grain crops, human wheat genetics with Vaeri drought resistance. They need checking for pest damage. Its detailed work requires understanding both agricultural traditions." "I can do it." "I know. Your file mentioned computational tasks, which means you have education. Vaeri nobles learn agriculture as basic training." Lyra stiffened. "That was before other people decided your worth based on circumstances beyond your control," Thomas interrupted. "But knowledge doesn't disappear. Can you do the work?" "Yes." They spent the morning working side by side. Lyra found herself falling into rhythms she had almost forgotten. Thomas proved patient, thorough, explaining not just what, but why. He showed her Elena's integrated techniques. "She believed that was the future," Thomas said. "Not separation, but intentional integration. Taking the best from both worlds. The High Council would call that contamination. The High Council are fools clinging to power through manufactured fear." I watched Elena fight for years to maintain exchanges, to prove collaboration was possible. And I watched institutions on both sides undermine everything she built. The bitterness in his voice was profound. By midday, they had completed the assessment. Over lunch, Lyra spoke. "Last night, I heard a surveillance drone outside my window." Thomas's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. "I know. I've been tracking it since we left the square." "You knew someone was following us?" "I suspected. What I did yesterday, purchasing you publicly, burning the contract that challenges social assumptions. Some people find that threatening." He activated a device, and a holographic display materialized, showing the farm from overhead. Small red dots marked positions around the perimeter. 3 drones. Fairly sophisticated equipment, which means this isn't casual curiosity. We should leave, or we could stay and see what they want. "That's insane." Thomas smiled dangerously. "Probably, but running won't solve the problem. Wherever we go, this pattern will repeat. People will object to our existence, our collaboration, our refusal to accept their manufactured divisions. So we fight?" "No," Thomas said softly. "We simply continue existing. We farm, we build, we prove through action that their fears are unfounded." That's what Elena would have done. The display flashed red. One drone was descending toward the house at high speed. In the distance came the unmistakable whir of multiple approaching vehicles. Thomas grabbed a pulse rifle and tossed Lyra a shield generator. "Stay behind me." These shields stop most conventional weapons, but they're limited power. 3 vehicles stopped in the farmyard, kicking up dust that glowed amber in the binary sunlight. The lead bore the Vaeri Cultural Preservation Committee insignia. The second held human security contractors. The third carried two figures in formal robes, High Council adjuncts. Thomas Hendricks, called the lead adjunct, a tall Vaeri male with religious conservative tattoos marking his purple skin. You are in violation of Cultural Preservation Statute 7-42, which prohibits harboring legally designated contaminants. That's interesting terminology for a person, Thomas replied, rifle ready. Lyra's contract was legally purchased and dissolved. She's here of her own free will. The contract was acquired under false pretenses. You've destroyed legal property and are providing sanctuary to a disgraced individual whose existence threatens cultural purity. Cultural purity, Thomas repeated with contempt. Is that what we're calling prejudice these days? The human contractors shifted. Their leader, a burly man with augmented implants visible at his temples, stepped forward. Mr. Hendricks, we've been authorized to retrieve the Vaeri female. This can go easy or hard. Third option, you all leave my property. I'm within my rights under colonial settlement law, which supersedes your statutes. Colonial law holds no authority over Vaeri citizens. Lyra, Thomas called, are you here by choice? Yes, she answered, voice steady despite fear. There's your answer. The second adjunct stepped forward. Lyra's breath caught. Vile then, who had served on the tribunal that condemned her mother. Little Lyra, Vile then said with false warmth. You've suffered so much. Why compound your family's disgrace? Come with us, accept rehabilitation, and perhaps some status can be restored. Rehabilitation? You mean the labor camps where my mother died? Your mother died because she refused purification, clung to her contamination. You don't have to make the same choice. Something inside Lyra crystallized, all the grief, all the rage fusing into clarity. My mother wasn't a mistake, she said, stepping forward. Her love wasn't contamination. And I am not broken merchandise to be reclaimed. She walked to the midpoint between Thomas and the vehicles. I am Lyra Vas Kael'thar, daughter of Aelith Vas Kael'thar, who loved beyond the boundaries your fear created. My mother's only crime was choosing connection over isolation. The adjuncts stiffened. Thomas made a sound of surprise or approval. You wear human clothes, stand in defense of human spaces. You've been contaminated. By what? Lyra interrupted. By kindness, by respect, by someone seeing me as a person rather than a problem. She addressed everyone. You call my existence contamination, but what I see is humans and Vaeri united in their fear, collaborating to maintain divisions that serve only those who profit from hatred. That's the real contamination, purposeful separation. The valley went silent. Thomas Hendricks purchased my contract and freed me, not because he wants something, but because it was right. He honors his wife, who spent her life building what you're trying to tear down, a future where we learn from each other. She looked at Vile then. My mother taught me that love is the most powerful force in the universe. She died believing that. I won't dishonor her memory by accepting your rehabilitation, your sanitized existence. Valden's face contorted, but the lead contractor raised his hand. We're done here. This is above our pay grade. Whatever political match you people are having isn't worth the paperwork. He walked to his vehicle. The others followed. The adjuncts stood frozen, their authority suddenly fragile. This isn't over, Vale then warned. The High Council, Thomas interrupted, will do what it always does. Issue pronouncements fewer people listen to every year. While you maintain purity, we'll be building something that works. He raised his wrist device, and suddenly the surveillance footage appeared on holographic displays, materialized from emitters Elena had installed around the farm. Insurance for exactly this kind of confrontation. Every word of the confrontation broadcast live to public networks spanning 3-star systems. Everyone's watching now, Thomas said quietly. You're going to leave. We're going to farm. Tomorrow, we'll do the same. And eventually, your fear will become irrelevant. The adjuncts left without another word, defeated not by violence but by witnessed truth. When they were gone, Lyra's legs gave out. Thomas caught her. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever seen, he said. Probably both, Lyra admitted, and started laughing, half hysteria, half relief. Thomas held her as the laughter turned to tears. She wept for her mother, for Elena, for all the people who had dared to love beyond boundaries and paid terrible prices. It's not over, she said finally. They'll come back. I know, but we'll still be here, still farming, still proving them wrong every day. That's the only victory that matters. He met her eyes. Elena used to say the most radical act in a world built on division is simply choosing to exist together, to wake up every morning and continue building bridges despite everyone trying to burn them down. I'm afraid. So am I. But we don't have to be brave all the time. We just have to be consistent. Can you do that? Lyra thought about her mother's final days, about Elena working until dawn, about Thomas still believing kindness mattered more than fear. Yes, she said, I can do that. Then we start tomorrow. We work the fields, we tend the crops, we prove through action what words never could. That's how we honor them. That's how we win. As the binary suns climbed higher, painting the valley in gold and hope, Lyra Vascaelthar and Thomas Hendricks stood together, two people from different worlds, united by loss and hope and the stubborn belief that love was stronger than fear. 3 months passed. The farm transformed. The viral broadcast sparked movements across 3 star systems. Young people, human and Vieri, began demanding change, questioning divisions their parents had accepted as inevitable. Volunteers came weekly, wanting to learn Elena's hybrid techniques. Scientists requested permission to study the integrated systems. Journalists documented the collaboration. The farm had become a symbol, proof that integration wasn't just possible, but beneficial for everyone involved. But the most significant change was the relationship between Lyra and Thomas themselves. They had become partners in the truest sense, not romantic, but bound by shared purpose and mutual respect. They worked side by side each day, building something that honored those who had fought for connection. One morning, checking the eastern fields, Thomas spoke quietly. Elena would have loved you, not just for what you represent, but for who you are. Brave, stubborn, unwilling to accept that things can't change. My mother would have loved you too, Lyra replied. She always said true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear make your decisions. They stood in the golden light of the binary sunrise, looking over fields that had become a symbol of possibility. Proof that collaboration worked better than separation, that integration produced more than isolation. The surveillance drones were gone. The adjuncts hadn't returned. The High Council faced investigations, and the Purity Initiative was being dismantled. But the work continued. Every day, Thomas and Lyra woke before dawn and tended the crops Elena had first planted, proving through consistent action what politicians claimed was impossible. Every night, Lyra sat in her room, Elena's room, and held the meditation crystal, releasing tensions and preparing for tomorrow's challenges, because that was what freedom meant. Not the absence of struggle, but the right to choose your own battles. Not the end of fear, but the refusal to let fear define your existence. A year after the auction, the farm hosted its first official cultural exchange program. 50 students, human and Vieri, from a dozen different worlds, gathered to learn integrated agricultural techniques. Lyra stood before them, no longer the frightened girl on the auction block, but a teacher, a symbol, a bridge between worlds. My mother used to say that love is the most powerful force in the universe, she told the students. And she was right. But love isn't passive. It's not just feeling, it's action. It's the choice to see beyond boundaries, to work past differences, to build something together that neither could create alone. She gestured to the fields, to the hybrid crops thriving in the valley, to the house where human and Vaeri design created something more beautiful than either alone. This farm exists because people refused to accept that division was inevitable. My mother, Elena Hendricks, Thomas, and now all of you, every person who chooses connection over fear, who picks up a tool and does the work of building bridges. You are the revolution. You are the change. Thomas stood at the back, watching Lyra speak with confidence and grace. Elena would have been proud. Aelith would have been proud. And he was proud too. Not because he had saved Lyra, but because she had saved herself. She had stood up in that farmyard and claimed her name, her identity, her right to exist on her own terms. That was the real victory. Not the investigations or political changes or cultural movements, but the simple fact that a girl sold on an auction block now stood as a teacher, helping others build the future her mother had dreamed of. As the binary suns set behind the mountains, painting the valley in violet and gold, the students dispersed to evening tasks. Humans and Vaeri working side by side, learning from each other, proving every day that collaboration was not just possible, but preferable. And in that moment, in that small valley on Kylthar, the universe shifted slightly toward hope. Because in a cosmos built on division, sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply choosing to exist together. To wake up every morning and continue building bridges despite everyone trying to burn them down. To prove through consistent action what words never could. That love, in all its forms, is stronger than fear. That connection is more powerful than separation. That the future belongs not to those who enforce boundaries, but to those brave enough to cross them. And that sometimes what happens on a single night between a widower and a freed slave can change the course of civilizations. It starts with a single act of courage, a single moment of choosing compassion over convenience, humanity over hatred. And from that single seed, an entire forest can grow.